this debate. There are many things my friend from Colorado brought up that will be debated, that are coming up, I think, as early, frankly, as tomorrow in some committees, and will be debated on this floor. This is about sharing. This is about information protection. And with that, I am pleased to yield 3 minutes to the distinguished gentleman from New York, who is a member of both Homeland Security and the Intelligence Committee. He's chairman of Homeland Subcommittee on Counterterrorism. He's also the former chairman of the full committee. It is my honor again to give 3 minutes to the gentleman from New York, Mr. King.
The gentleman from Georgia, the gentleman from New York is recognized for 3 minutes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I rise in strong support of the rule and also of the underlying bills for H.R. 1731 and H.R. 1560. As was pointed out, I am the only member of Congress who's on the Homeland Security Committee and the Intelligence Committee, and I was able both to take part and also to observe closely the extent to which Chairman McCall and Chairman Nunes worked with members on both sides of the aisle, worked with privacy groups, worked with federal officials, government officials, administration officials to try to make this as bipartisan a bill as possible, to ensure that privacy would be protected, but also to ensure that everything possible can be done to protect our nation against cyber intrusions. Now, it's every day there are attacks upon our infrastructure. The critical infrastructure, mostly in private hands, is being targeted, and federal networks, databases vital to our national security are under assault every second of every day. Cyber terrorism, whether it's carried out by nation states such as Iran or Russia or China, or carried out by terrorist organizations such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, these are extremely damaging and threatening to our national security. And it's essential that we, especially since so much of our critical infrastructure is in the hands of the private sector, that we allow for sharing, that we allow companies to share information with the government, that there be this mutual sharing with the government, with the private sector, so that these companies can do it without fear of being sued, without fear of liability. They act in good faith. They do what has to be done. And again, every measure is put in there. I know the gentleman from Colorado disagrees, but every measure is in there to ensure that individual rights will not be violated, the privacy will not be violated. And again, we have to look, if for instance, if the gentleman from Colorado was wrong, what this could mean to our country, how this could devastate our infrastructure, devastate our national security, devastate our financial systems. So again, this was not something that was rushed into. And when you have both bills passing out of committee with, as far as I recall, not one dissenting vote, not that everyone's in full agreement with bills, but the fact is this is probably as close to a consensus as you can come in the halls of Congress on such a critical and in some ways such a controversial issue, to find that type of unanimity on the two committees that deal with this most significantly. Now, on 1731, which is the Homeland Security Committee bill, that allows this information to be shared. The portal will be the Department of Homeland Security, and that was done again working with privacy groups, working with those who are concerned with civil liberties, and at the same time working with those who realize how absolutely essential to our security it is, passage of this legislation is, and how we have to have this type of cooperation, this type of sharing, this information sharing, and being done with the government, with the private sector, working together to combat these enemies which can come at us from all directions. And again, every second of every day, these attacks are being attempted and carried out. That's the crisis that faces us as a nation, and it's not as obvious as a bomb going off in Times Square. It's not as obvious as a bomb going off at the Boston Marathon, but it is just as critical.
Recognize the gentleman for another minute.
And it's just as critical, just as vital, in some ways more so, in that the ultimate result could be so devastating to our nation. So I would ask again, passage of the rule, which I believe is obviously essential, but also passage of the underlying bills, because, again, our Congress has been criticized with some validity for not being able to work together, for not being able to get things done. But to have such a vital, controversial issue as this, to have both committees who deal with it most closely, to have them come together, all the effort and work that went into it, to have them come together to come up with this package of legislation, this shows the Congress works, it shows we take this issue seriously, and it means we are going to go forward doing all we can to combat terrorism in all its forms. And probably right now the most lethal is the cybersecurity attacks being made on it. So with that, I yield back the balance of my time and urge strong support of the rule and the underlying bills. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Reserve.
Gentleman from Georgia.